Stoked to have my longtime friend Daniel Kading on with me today on the What the Heck is a Brand show. I think Daniel was like guest number 2 on the show like a year ago, back when we like did it the first time around. So super stoked to have him back.
Yeah, stoked to be here, and especially after all this time.
Yeah, it's been a few, man. I mean, mostly we just kind of wanted to catch up. I know Dan. Do you go by Daniel or Dan? I never
Dan.
I never know. I
Yeah.
mean, your flag in the back is Dan, but on LinkedIn you're Daniel Kading,
Yeah,
because you're
I know.
Mr. Fancy. So
I know. It sounds way too formal when people call me Daniel, or if they call me Danny, then I'm even more thrown off. So yeah, I'm like, Danny
there you
sounds
go.
like the surfer guy that runs the gas station down the street. I don't know. Like I feel like more of a Dan. I don't know.
There we go. Okay, so we're Dan Kading.
Appreciate it.
Funny story. After our last chat, I don't know. We had some post, or you had some post about websites or personal brand sites or something. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go like hook this dude up, and I went and bought your domain. So I I own dankading.com.
Oh, you did?
And
Nice.
I was just gonna like build you like a super sick landing page, just something quick, and like send it to you. And then I just got busy and like never got around to
You
it. So
still
like
have the name?
I
Oh my god, that's
totally
funny.
I totally own dankading.com. I don't own
Buy it from you if I did.
rexallen.com,
Wow,
which
wow,
is
that's so
which is
funny.
dumb.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I
whenever
had
you
an
want to do
opportunity to
that
buy it for like
whenever you want to do that landing page, feel free, and I'll take you up on that. I need
we'll
help. I need
start
help in that
we'll
area.
start sending we'll start sending traffic to it, and I'll just own it all.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. You'll be like one of those fake accounts on TikTok, just reaping all the rewards, right?
Dude, I actually thought that'd be a pretty fun business model to like go in and just like get everybody who's like semi-famous that's like not savvy with the internet, and just like totally own all of their personal name domains.
Yeah, yeah. Just
And then
just
like
take like
build
a
landing
really
pages
great.
and be like,
Yeah,
hey, you
yeah.
want
Oh yeah.
this? It's $10,000.
Yeah, they're like, hey, famous actor that's super like not into this. We need to start doing some big stuff online, and you happen to own everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow, I tried to buy your domain and it was $20,000. I mean, I guess you're just gonna have to buy it from whoever owns that.
It's so funny. I was thinking about like my first stint into like the creator economy, and it was like way earlier than I would have ever thought. It was like my teacher, my computer lab teacher. He used to wear a lab coat and he had all this long hair. He looked like a mad scientist, but he wasn't a science teacher. He was the computer lab teacher, and he was always talking about domain names. He's like, you got to buy domain names. It doesn't matter if it's Apple, if it's green, or whatever. Like obviously Apple would have been a great domain name to have purchased at one point, but like, yeah,
Right.
yeah, like, or something like that. And he was like, it doesn't matter. You could pick a color, you could pick whatever. You spend a couple of pennies on the dollar every year for it, and eventually you're gonna make millions. Yada yada. And I remember like thinking that is a smart idea. Like I was starting to get the wheels
Yeah.
turning at like 9 years old, 10 years old. I don't know how old I was, but I was just like, yeah, I wonder what I could do with
If
the
only.
internet.
I mean, imagine like if you would have jumped on that and just like bought all of the one word domains that you could think of.
Yeah,
Like
just like the
how
most basic stuff, like
valuable, like those
numbers.
are
Just pick all
so
the numbers.
valuable now, like
Yeah,
anything that's one word like sells for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000. And it's just like,
yeah. If
ah,
I ever run into that teacher, I gotta check in with him. Be like, did you ever cash out? did,
right.
did it ever work out for you?
Man, I went to this event out at this like private ranch in Texas. It's called Drive Tanks, and they've got a bunch of tanks and all sorts of stuff. Um, and yeah, the dude that owns that place like owns some domain name something something company, and like sold it to GoDaddy for like $250 million or something crazy like that. So
Yeah, those
That dude
kind of
was probably in
stories.
the same class you were. And
Yeah,
he's
right.
like, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna do
yeah. He
that.
like immediately went on there and bought it with his if he had a debit card or whatever. Oh my god. Yeah, the life was so challenging back then. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go buy a domain name. I bet that was a challenge, just finding out where to get it back then, right? Like the wild west of Google at that time. Anyways, yeah, that stuff is just so
Yeah, you
mind
end
blowing
up
to
on
me when
some
you think about just a
janky looking website. You're like, yeah, domain name, sure.
yeah, there's like some sketchy looking like a goat or something, like some crazy looking mascot on there. Anyways, yeah, the internet used to be like MySpace and stuff. Yeah, all that stuff was so fascinating back in the day. But yeah, anyways, what's new with you? What have you been doing that's different now? I mean, your studio looks amazing. You still got amazing shirts on. You still got the righteous beard. What's changed?
Yeah.
What's changed for you in the last
Yeah,
year?
I mean, in the last year, Stoke has gone through a full rebrand, so like that was fun. Used
Yeah,
to have
stoked
like,
ship.
yeah, used to have red everything. And speaking of domain names, I kind of had some domain authority issues. Naming the business Stoke Design Co. I own stokedesignco.com, but there was a web design agency in Australia that owned stokedesign.co. And since they were a website company, they like owned SEO, and like anything you Googled that was like Stoke Design anything, they just owned, right? So I was like, ah. So
Yeah,
it came to a
couldn't get
point
past
where
that.
yeah, I was sitting next to somebody like trying to get them onto my website. I'm like, go to stokedesignco.com. And she opens up Google and goes, Stoke space design space co, enter. And like, not me pops up everywhere. And I'm like, man, if I can't even help someone sitting right next to me find my business, like, how am I going to hope any like not people like that are going to land on it? So, yeah, rebranded to Stoke Ship, kind of went psychedelic in the neon retro colors and kind of leaning into that look. And it's like way
Yeah,
more fun than red. I mean, red was just kind of like
it's bold.
I don't
It's
know, a lingering.
but
Yeah, I mean, I've got another
neon is
couple
what's in right
businesses.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got another couple businesses that were red like forever ago and more fitting for those. And I just like picked red because that's what I had already done. Right. But when I like took time
Hmm.
to think about branding and think about who I want to connect with and what vibe and what look and feel I want my content to be and what I want the messaging to all feel like, I was like, red is not the right color. It's not the right energy. So
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, it means it almost like speaks to a more hyper focused, chiseled version. Before you're dumping gasoline on that sucker, and here you're like you're sending people to a targeted location. I don't know. Hey, like if there's a value upgrade in that brand, I feel like I'm feeling it from that.
Yeah, it's been fun. So that exercise was fun. When I started changing it up, I got, I don't even know, 30 or 40 people like sending me DMs like, "Oh, the new brand is so rad, like I love it." So
Cool.
definitely
Got
never
good
got that
feedback.
with anything that was red. So like
Yeah,
that
yeah. I
was
mean, ever
good.
since Stranger Things brought the '80s back, like yeah, it's
Yeah.
all about the neon, dude. Yeah, I
Yeah,
dig
it's
it. So
fun. I'm an 80s child, so well, I
yeah,
mean,
right.
born in the 80s but grew up in the 90s, so more of a
I'm
90s
pretty
child, I
close, but
guess, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. 91 for me. So yeah, I'm pretty
yeah, so
close
I
to it.
mean, yeah, so Stoke Ship's been crazy. I've got, a couple employees going now, so it's like not just me anymore, which is fun. I think that gives us the opportunity to do better work or more work than what I'm just capable of. So that's
Mhm.
enjoyable, but not without its own, challenges of just like figuring out how to do that. Obviously, have never done that before. So figuring all that stuff out. But yeah, it's
That
good.
step terrifies me. So you're feeling good. You're feeling good now, and you're like becoming more productive from it, and yeah,
Some
it's
sometimes. Yeah,
it
sometimes.
depends,
So
right?
it's good. Yeah.
Life's a
Yeah,
balancing
but
act, right?
yeah, it's good. I mean, I feel like LinkedIn is so weird. So obviously we connected on LinkedIn a year ago or, right about then, pretty much right when we
Hmm.
both went full time on our own.
Yeah.
And I feel like the algorithm just kind of sucks sometimes because like the people that I want to hear from, I just like don't hear from, right? And like I know you're on there creating content, but unless I go Daniel Kading and search for you and like actually seek you out, like the algorithm isn't showing your stuff to me, which is weird. Because
Yeah.
it's like I always interact with your content when I see it, right? So you would think that would teach the algorithm to be like, hey, show me Dan's stuff, but it just like doesn't. So
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
like, oh,
I
I
probably need
see.
to go prune everybody out of my connection list that like pops up that I don't care to see, you know, so that the people that I do want to see, I can find.
Dude, I mean, it feels like you get like a solid 2 months or whatever, where like the algorithm, I don't know what it is, but like the algorithm sends that person in front of you for like a solid 2 months, and then, well, bam! I mean, I feel this on YouTube too sometimes, where like it just like assumes I'm tired of it or something. It's like, okay, we're gonna move you on to this next category because the shopping season is switching around to fall, and it's time for you to toss out those warm colors and put the cold ones on. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that's the vibe I get from the algorithm, and it's like, you know what? No, maybe depth with your audience is a good thing, and we should encourage that on all levels. That would be my take. But
Yeah, I definitely think it makes sense, you know, from like a human psyche standpoint, right? Like we're constantly wanting new information and new, right? So if like it only showed you content from the same 20 people all the time, like that's going to get you disengaged with the platform, right? So I think, and I've heard it from, you know, some of those guys that do kind of like studies of the algorithm and stuff, that like it really does, like when you connect with somebody new, it shows you them in your feed more for like a month, and then they kind of like slough off, right? And I've seen that with a handful of the creators that I know are on there every day creating, and I just like don't see them anymore, which is a bummer because some of them I really, really like.
yeah, you want to keep engaging. Yeah, and I feel the same way because like I've probably had to fight to find your stuff in the past too. But what's what do you think is different now, other than like the algorithm being like harder to predict? What do you think's working the best right now?
Like social media wise.
Or just LinkedIn? Or are
Yeah, I
there other
mean,
areas that are you more interested in other areas right now? What's on your mind?
yeah, I mean, definitely, I'm still spending a ton of time on LinkedIn. It's like my main jam.
Shoot,
And
some
then
other shit.
obviously, me as like a video person, right? I'm like, I mean, not as much as you, just because like time availability. Like, I don't have as much time, but like, I like doing TikTok Reels, YouTube Shorts. I think TikTok has really changed the game. We probably even talked about this last time. I mean, and now we're a year
Yeah,
later, right? Of
and
like
our
TikTok is
perspectives
even
were
more entrenched,
our
right?
perspectives were even more like infant at that point or whatever, like super, like I had no idea what I was doing a year ago on there. I feel like I
Yeah,
finally got my sea legs. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't do as much on there as I'd like to, but definitely like I think content is moving towards video, and especially vertical video, TikTok style video. Instagram started paying me for content, so that's fun.
What?
I made like
What?
$120 last month on
What?
Instagram for making reels. So
Dude,
that was cool.
maybe I have some money sitting in there. I don't know. You figure
Yeah,
they'd
so
tell me.
yeah, it's like a bonus program, and you have to like get a pop up, I guess, that says like you're invited to
Oh,
it. So I don't know what the requirements are because
you gotta be cool, kid. All
this
right,
is for an
gotcha.
account that's got like 15,000 followers and it's
Oh,
old, you know.
oh
So
yeah, yeah.
like,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I remember us
yeah,
talking about that account.
my
Cool.
new account like doesn't have it yet, which is a bummer because I've got a couple reels that have gone 20, 30,000 views, which would be, you know,
Nice, nice.
it's about
Yeah.
$1 per thousand, I guess. So well,
Wow.
it's more than that. So
Well,
yeah,
shit, man. I've had a couple that have been 10. I've had like at least 10 plus videos that have gone 10,000 plus on there. So,
yeah.
we'll see. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so I don't know. Definitely
maybe
look
one
out.
day.
It's called Instagram. It's called like Reels bonuses or something. It's like a bonus program. So it's, I don't know. It's cool. It's
Yeah.
fun to like
Yeah.
get paid to make content.
Oh yeah, a little passive income. You're like, yeah, I needed that today, right? You're like, so, but I do stand, like to the numbers are much higher if I find just a handful of clients when I'm on there. So it's like chasing those influencer dollars is just not as exciting to me as like finding that exact person, right? Like I
Yeah, so
love that.
I think that brings up an interesting perspective because I think once you start creating, you start getting that dopamine of, oh, somebody liked my post, or oh, I got 10,000 views or whatever, right? And
Hmm.
that's exciting, and it's easy to get caught up in those metrics and those numbers, right? But I think algorithm agnostic, right? Because each platform is going to have their own algorithm, right? But
I like that. Yeah.
the best way to grow on social is just to put out good content, right? Content that people are going
Yeah.
to like
Right.
and content that people are going to share. And if your content's crap, like you can gain the algorithm and like, yeah, people might see you, but like at the end of the day, those likes and shares like don't translate into dollars. as
Hmm.
directly as if you're making content for a specific audience, a specific person in mind. And when they see that, they
Hmm.
connect with it and they're like, hey, I need what this guy's offering, right? So I think it's different, right? If you're trying to set out to be a content creator, then your strategy is going to be different versus if you're setting out to try to, grow a service-based business or grow a B2B brand or something on social. Like I think those two strategies are going to be significantly different.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if your focus is super chiseled, like with you, you have a very chiseled approach of like who you're trying to talk to and what specific things you want to help them with. And then like I want to ghostwrite for people and I want to help them develop their content and build their brands and really take their personal brand to the next level and become a thought leader. And so like yeah, with like what I'm doing with them, I really want them to watch a video and be like, Dan is the man. Like Dan is the guy I want to work with. He knows what he's talking about. I want that video to build validity and give people a reason to go that extra mile, to take action, to send me a DM, to click the scheduler tool, to say like I've waited long enough. That's really what I want them to feel. But yeah, I think that like if you're going the other route and you just want to become an influencer and you want to gain audience, I think you do fall into that trap of like the engagement baiting,
Yeah.
and you know what? I think there's a little bit of room for some of that to have a little bit of fun and to like try some strategies for like getting extra comments and whatnot. But like if that's all that's bolstering you, you are a paper tiger and you're gonna fall flat really fast as soon as a nice breeze comes through. And I think that building a foundation on the brand and building a foundation on the value pitch and just being a total geek for what you do, like, because when I look at your stuff, I know you are a geek for your process. I know you love what you do, and you can tell it because you're a showman with your setup. But beyond that, like, just the stuff you put out is consistent and it's developed around a very, very like solid approach. And so like I think that stands out and people really, really gravitate towards that and they just take you more seriously because of it. So anyways, that's sort of my soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, I think social media. I mean, social media is so big, right? And I think people are on there for different reasons. And even on LinkedIn, if we're talking LinkedIn specifically, right? Like we're on there trying to grow B2B brands, essentially, right? We both are kind of in that B2B space where like, Joe Schmo that wants to buy shoes is not my customer, right? I'm trying to like work
Yeah.
with people who own businesses and I'm trying to work with businesses. And certainly it's always a person to person interaction, right? I'm working with a person inside a business, right? But like the business is the one that pays the bill, not some dude with his personal credit card, right? So like I think that's kind of the difference between B2B or B2C is it's like it's all person to person, right? And I harp on that all the time, right? And your interactions, like
Mhm.
you're speaking to people, not some nameless entity, right? So in your person to
Yeah.
person interactions, like the difference between B2B and B2C is B2B is a business credit card that gets swiped, and D2C or
Yeah,
B2C
that's well
is
put.
a personal credit card that gets swiped, right? And I think that's the biggest difference, right? And I think the type of content that you put out and the way that you talk to people is different depending on whose credit card gets swiped, right? If it's
Yeah.
Rex's credit card that has to get swiped, well, I mean, mine's weird because like my business card is my personal card essentially, right? But like in an organization that's larger than just a
Yeah,
few
yeah, yeah,
people,
for sure. A little bit bigger,
um,
yeah.
the things that you need to
They probably
convince
got
them
a
of are
book.
going to be different, right?
They probably
And
got a
and the
whole
way,
folder with checks, just like that's what I remember
yeah,
with even working with restaurants and stuff. Anyways, continue.
yeah, it's just I think the psychology behind those decisions are much different, right? And the things that you need to convince them of are different, whether they're paying for it or their business is paying for it, and figuring out who has the purse strings inside an organization, who is the decision maker, who's the person that can actually say yes to your service is the person that you need to focus on talking to and connecting with and communicating with in your content, right? If you're selling something on a level where like a CMO has to approve it, you need to be talking to the CMO, right? And not, some super like tactical level employee, because
Hmm.
that it's going to be a much harder sale, right? Versus if it's something that a person with I guess less authority inside the business can make a decision on and purchase, then talk to that person.
Yeah. So what would you say to this? Because this is something I talk to my clients about a lot, and I try to like make their profiles appeal not only to their target audience, but also a larger group of people that just want to engage with them on the level of like, I think you're awesome, and I think I could learn a lot from you, and I probably will never have the chops to hack it in your industry, but I definitely want to learn from you. So like for me, I always try to like have them create content where they focus on that group of people so that not only do they return to the roots of their daily process and they discuss the things that are happening and they're bringing up client stories and they're also encouraging storytelling, but they can then flip back to those tactical posts where they're like, hey, CMO at X company, this is a problem that my client had, and here's how I solved it, and here's how it relates to you. And so, like, creating the content is great, but I also think that there is room for that other side where like you all, because like a good example of this is when you end up like getting bombarded by like a really strong B2B brand that understands their LinkedIn approach, like Gong or whatever, or one of those other SaaS companies that just kills it on LinkedIn. Like, you comment on one thing and one person from their company sees it, and then before you know it, 5 or 6 other people see it, and then you got 20 other people from Gong commenting on your post, and then all before you know it, Udi Latagor is on there commenting on your post. Like, so in my head, there is a lot of power to be said to like capture those smaller fish in the net, because as soon as they start interacting with you, all the other people want to start interacting with you, and then yeah. So what do you think about that kind of stuff? How do you feel about those strategies, and how people can use that to their advantage?
Yeah, I think it's good to kind of cast a wide but focused net, right? My experience on LinkedIn's been kind of weird lately. Like I've had people from all over the world kind of randomly connecting with me for seemingly no reason, and I'm like, why are you sending me a connection request? Like, this is weird. Like, I don't quite understand it, and I still don't know that I do. And for the longest time, I just had the idea of, yeah, I'll connect with everybody because everyone is a potential person that I can either work with or that I can help, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
that there'll be that shared exchange of value, right? So I kind of have never really turned people away, but now I'm like, this is just kind of strange that I'm getting all these like super random requests from people to connect with me, and then like they don't interact. There's no nothing, right, other than like a connection request, and then poof, they're gone. So
Dude, I
definitely,
know. Yeah,
it's kind of a strange place. I feel like people
it
are just trying to
is.
connect with
Yeah.
influencers to get their like own selfish reasons, which I don't understand. Like, if you just connect with me, like, and don't post content or don't do anything, like, what's the purpose of making that
That's
connection? Like,
so
I kind of
true.
don't understand it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people come to LinkedIn with that mentality of like, I need to connect through the My Network button, and I need to go in there and find people that are related to my industry. Like when I used to drive for Uber and Lyft, I would always have Uber and Lyft people in my thing, and I'm like, I don't want to connect with anybody from this organization. Like
Yeah.
all these gig workers. Like, come on, really? Like, and I started thinking, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could start writing a blog and start talking about the stories from the road of Uber and Lyft. And I was like, I don't want that to be my thing. And then like anyway, so like I think LinkedIn is, a lot of people come to it with that attitude that it's not like a traditional social media site where you're supposed to like come in and start engaging with people and like go find the top influencers in your industry and follow them and then engage with their content. No one thinks about it that way. They immediately hit that My Network button and then everything gets jacked up. It's like, yeah, and then from there it just gets confusing, and they get connected with people like yourself on the other side of the world who may not even be in an industry that they're even connected to. And yeah, and then they confuse the algorithm. I think the algorithm needs some help in that regard.
Yeah, so I've thought a lot about it, and like I when I create these live events, sometimes I'll go through my list and like invite people that I think are like pertinent to the conversation that I'm about to have with a guest, right? So people who I think would benefit from what Dan's about to share on the live stream, I'll invite them, right? I won't just like invite everybody from my list. I'll like kind of strategically go through it, and I'll be going through my list, and I'm like, probably 80% of these names mean absolutely nothing to me. Like, I have had
Yeah.
zero contact with them. I've never seen a post from them. They've never commented on anything from me. We don't have anything in common. Even like, they're not even in a marketing or creative industry. They're just like, whatever, And I'm like, how did I get to a place where I have so many connections that I have no connection to, right? And it's just like, I just feel
Because
like
they're
I want to
so
purge
random.
it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think it's the way the thing's designed. I think it's a design thing.
yeah, I haven't figured it out. I don't know what the right answer is there, but you do have a 30,000 people limit, and I'm not close to that. But I don't want to ever get to that point and be like, yeah, I have 30,000 people that have nothing to do with what I create, right? Because when you connect with
Yeah.
people that aren't interested in the content that you're making, then they're not interacting with it, right? So those extra connections are just like decreasing your engagement percentage that the algorithm is going to look at because they don't care about what you're doing, right? So I think having
Kind
a
of is a
bunch of
negative.
followers, yeah, and connections that aren't engaged or aren't caring about what you're doing is actually going to hurt your reach, long term.
That's probably completely true. And I remember like Chris Hughes went back through and cleaned up his and had like such a better feed immediately after. Like, and it also fixed some of the issues you were bringing up earlier where like you're not seeing enough of the people you want to see. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, why have a connection with anybody if they're never going to engage with a single piece of content you're creating? It's like they're not here
yeah.
for the content creation aspect, they're here for the networking. They didn't come here to get social, they came here to make sales. And they were told LinkedIn is the place, but like they don't realize they got to give a little to get a little. They got to build a brand, they got to put work in on their profile, they got to show up for people, and they got to put in the time. And yeah,
You
most people just want to send DMs and just burn every lead
I
and
mean,
piss everybody off.
you definitely can't just jump on LinkedIn and have no content, no posts, no nothing, connect with people and then expect them to buy from you. like like that's happened to me so many times. Like I'll get a connection request, immediately get pitch slapped 5 minutes later. Blah 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 blah. I'm from this company and I can do this and this and this for you. And I'm like, A, I don't need that. B, I don't know you. C, you don't do anything on the platform.
Yeah,
So
no, yeah.
unfollow, unconnect, by.
Yeah, I don't know who it is out there that's pitching the world on this whole DM strategy, but they're out there and they're like it works somehow. I don't know what numbers they're fudging, but it doesn't work. And yeah, and as much as anybody out there can avoid that, the better. But yeah, I feel like um, if people just included that middle section that they just are so unwilling to do, which is create the content and put in some time on their profile and their brand, they will have such a better approach. Or even like the whole notion of like putting your business logo in place of your face. Like we want to see your face, we want to know you're a real human. Like we want to hear some aspects of your storyline and stuff like that too. So it's like even if they create the content, they can't just put up a spread list from their website and a couple, maybe make a couple of tweaks. Like so like on the flip side, it's like, yeah, like they still have to, it seems like you can't really fake it in that regard. Like you could have somebody come in and ghostwrite for you and whatnot, but like you still have to put that content on the feed and do it consistently for a period of time before
Yeah,
anybody's
so,
ever going to trust you or listen to you.
yeah, for sure. So I'm kind of curious about ghostwriting, right? Because I've been approached by a few ghostwriters, right? I'm making a ton of content. People come, hey, have you ever thought about hiring a ghostwriter? And I'm kind of like, well, no, because I enjoy content. Content
You're a
is like
creator.
half of what
Yeah.
I do, right? I'm a creator, so like for me, it's an obvious no, right? But
Hmm.
like for people who are thinking about hiring a ghostwriter, like why would they do that when like half of the purpose of LinkedIn is to like build those personal connections, right? So say a ghostwriter's in there doing all their content, a ghostwriter's commenting, interacting with people, and then all of a sudden the dude gets on a call with someone who is interested, and dude's like, hey, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and the guy's like, yeah, me too. Like what does that ghostwriting service look like, and then like what is that strategy, like the tactical strategy of how is it implemented on the client level? How does that work?
Let me answer really quick, and then I gotta go let my maintenance guy in really fast. But the ghostwriting, like for someone like yourself who's a creator, yeah, ghostwriting is kind of like off the table unless like it's a time thing and you don't have the time in your schedule, nor do you want to put it into creating your written content. So like I think a lot of times it comes down to that. It's like the people that I do write for, it's not that they aren't writers, it's not that they don't have the chops or that they don't want to, they just physically don't want to put the time in on it, and they want to be active on LinkedIn, they want to be in that community, but going that creative step and also the juices it takes to build up that content is another aspect of it that a lot of people don't think of. It's like, it's one thing to create the content on a podcast, but it's all the other steps behind it, all the production things that people don't really think about. And so I think writing and doing the creation process, actually drumming up new ideas, having a structure, having a set of parameters that you can follow based on a set of guidelines that you developed, I think that's a huge plus side for my clients, where it's like, yeah, I just need someone to help guide me and build an architecture so I can do this consistently for a really long time. And so, and then there's also the execution side of it. But then again, some people want to write their own content, and I don't ghostwrite for them. I just give them feedback on the flip side, and I do content audits, if you want to call them that.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically give them feedback on what they could do to improve. It's like, yeah, your hook, ooh, this was rough. Your hook was not good. Here's how you could have made it better. You could have used a direct use statement. You could have asked a question. You could have said this in a totally different way, because the way you're saying it right now, you gave me everything. I have no reason to click the see more button because you already told me everything. You got to lead me down that breadcrumb trail. And oftentimes you got to give me the juicy bit first and then make me click the see more button, So, yeah. And then teaching them too, because people want to learn as well. And so I think there's that aspect of like, some people just don't need it. And then the people that do need it for these set of parameters. So, yeah, I hope that explains that.
I think so. I mean, what I get out of that is like, just because you're a creator doesn't mean that you're someone who would not want to have a ghostwriter or a content strategist, right? So I think that's kind of where you shine. Is like, you're kind of in this dual space of like, you're doing the ghostwriting, you're doing the creation, but you're also doing the strategy to maybe help a creator create better content as well.
Yeah, exactly. That is the big part of it, where it's like, even if you are a creator, even if you are a writer, maybe you just want to create a Loom recording and answer 15 questions each month and have someone drum up a bunch of content for you. I know someone from the previous company I worked at, his entire Twitter feed is ghost written for him. And he does it all in a 1-hour meeting that he does each month. He pays this guy $3,000. He meets with them. The dude ghost writes every single tweet thread and tweet for him based on what he says in that meeting. And then he takes those tweet threads and repurposes them to all of his TikTok, all of his IG accounts, and then he creates this based off of that verbiage. So it's just like this ever-ending, like track of content, and he didn't even create it to begin with, So that's really cool to me. And that dude's a creator. He just doesn't do the physical work. He's still a crazy cool entrepreneur. He just doesn't do the physical work. So can I take a quick break and go let my maintenance guy in really fast?
Yeah, man. Sorry. Yeah, you're good.
I'm so sorry. I appreciate you. He wasn't supposed to get here till 12.
That's all good.
I'll be right back.
All right, guys. So this is the What the Heck is a Brand show. We are taking a quick break while Dan goes and lets his maintenance guy in. But essentially what we are talking about today is social media strategies, content strategies, how to grow on social media, how to level up your game as a creator or as an employee at your current company who maybe wants to level up their career. How can you leverage social media? How can you, as a business owner, leverage social media to grow your business, to help people become more aware of who you are and what your service offering is? All of these things can be achieved through social media. It's something that's less known, I think, for a lot of people who maybe aren't as active on social media, as far as like, how can I actually leverage this technology to help grow my business, grow my brand? There's a lot of ways to do it. I think the biggest way, and it's so funny that like we're in 2022 and this is still a strategy, but like starting to create content is the best way that you can get your name out there and get people aware of who you are and what you do as a service provider and what your business does or what you do as your career. So it looks like Dan is back. We'll add him back to the stream and we will keep rocking. What is going on? Or maybe he's not back. He's back, maybe. Connected.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to try to get these synced up. Anyways, continue. So,
yeah, no, I was just kind of giving like a potty break version of what we're talking about and what we're going into.
Oh, okay, so. Good. Nice. Yeah, so let's keep rolling.
I think I'm still here. Are you still here?
Okay. Yeah, I'm still here. It's my headphones. They always give me problems.
Yeah, it's so funny, like, technology wise, we're all Bluetooth everything, and I'm like, nope, freaking hardwire this, hardwired into my
Dude,
audio
I know.
interface, hardwired into my computer. It's like,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
long
I
as
know.
I
There's
click the
nothing
right
more.
input and output buttons, like it's good to go.
That chord sometimes, right? I mean, just knowing that something is set and ready.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, so
Yes.
one of the things that I think we could touch on is just like high level content strategy, and I think this applies to pretty much all of the platforms, right? If you're trying to grow either your personal brand because you're an employee and you want to level up your career, or you're a business owner, you want to get more awareness for your business, or you're a service provider, freelancer, whatever it is, right? If you're trying to grow on social media for any reason, I think one of the most important things, obviously, is to get started. But then once you start, is to maintain consistency. Pretty much all of the platforms that you can create content on, whether it's LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I don't even know about Facebook anymore, but pretty much all those platforms reward consistency. And if you're not consistent, then you're not going to build a brand. So in your recommendation, do you think you pick one platform and go all in on one platform and then go to another one and then another one? Or do you just think you shotgun the same content out to all the platforms? Or like, what's your strategy as far as picking a platform and then maintaining consistency there? Oh, I can't hear you. I'm sure you're saying something good, but can't hear you.
We're getting there. We're getting
Yep,
there. Can you
we
hear me
got
now?
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Okay. Dude. Technology. Am I good? All right. Um,
yep, good to go.
well, I think that you should start out on one platform. Unless you have a team helping you, I think you should start out on one platform and get your sea legs. I think you should, start on LinkedIn because it's high yield, high reward. You get you get a good dopamine kick from the algorithm. You're not going to get burned out as quickly, and yeah. So then you go from there. And once you get used to posting to LinkedIn, you got a system in place. People are liking your content. You've kind of chiseled out your niche. I think it's good to bring in platforms that complement each other. So then you bring in Twitter, or maybe you bring in TikTok, but say you bring in Twitter, and then you start taking your insights from LinkedIn and you turn them into tweet threads. Sometimes maybe you need
Mm,
them. Now, say you're way too specific and you just need to. Sometimes I'm talking about LinkedIn, so I'll talk about Twitter instead. A lot of these concepts are usually pretty, they can cross pollinate. And then you turn that into a tweet thread. And then from there, say you get really good at doing that and repurposing your tweets, and then you can share them back over to LinkedIn so they complement each other in that sense. And then you can get feedback from both communities. Say you want to move over to Instagram, and you're not quite sure what to do. You haven't made a video yet. You're terrified of it. Take your Twitter threads, screenshot them, and turn them into little tiny images and create. You just go in there and you say Instagram, and it gives you the correct size. You go in and you create slides, little carousels, and you put the
mm-hmm.
images in there, and then you don't have to worry about the text because that is a major pain in the keister figuring out text on Canva or anything like that. So you got the text figured out, you got the emojis figured out, you got an image, and it already is primed and ready to be a short form piece of content. And then you just create a slide reel. You save that and you repurpose it to IG, and you have yourself a slide reel that's going to perform really well, a carousel on Instagram. And then from there, you can take that exact same Instagram carousel. It's the exact same size as what you do on LinkedIn. The exact same size, except you upload it as a PDF instead of as individual images, and you get yourself a slide reel. And so, like, you can just go in a circle, like in
Yeah.
my opinion, it doesn't have to be hard like that. And so, I think like when you pick platforms that complement each other, you can make your creation process 20,000 times easier. And right now I'm filming this live stream. I'm going to put this into the script later and I'm going to repurpose it into a whole bunch of TikTok videos. So, I mean,
Yeah.
like the content is waiting all around as far as I'm concerned. And I think like, and just picking those, I think picking one and then just building on that is perfect. But like, if you're going, in the polar opposite direction and then not repurposing in between, I think there can be that disconnect.
Yeah, and I think you're wasting a lot of effort if you're I mean, I fall into this all the time because I'm a creator. I constantly feel the need to like create something new every day, right? So I'm like, I got to come up with a fresh idea. I'm using this, I'm using some of the strategies that I have to generate those ideas, but I'm like, I got to come up with a new idea, a new concept every day, make new content every day, post new stuff every day, right? And like that is freaking exhausting,
That's
right?
exhausting for
So
anybody, let alone the greatest artists, right?
yeah, yeah. What I help clients do is like, okay, we're gonna pick our one thing that's gonna be our anchor, right? So whether that's
I love
a
that.
YouTube channel or that's our really high value, high quality LinkedIn content, or whether it's Instagram carousels or whatever, right? We're gonna pick the one account that's gonna be kind of the parent account that's gonna serve as kind of the hub for everything else we do, and then we're gonna take that hub content. So I mean, I think for me personally, I think probably the most beneficial way to do this is to use either a podcast or like a YouTube video, right? Whether it's
Oh
a
yeah.
live YouTube video or whatever, some sort of long form piece of content, and picking a platform that is good to host that content, which is probably YouTube, right? I think YouTube is the best for hosting long videos. And then, like you said, you take that and you can take that content and you can make a week's worth of content out of one piece of long form content, right? A week's worth of content on every platform, right? So you're taking an hour long video that you just recorded live on YouTube or whatever. Maybe you just record it and have it sitting on your hard drive. Drop that in a Descript, like you said, you're making 50 short form videos out of it, or you're going to take that and you're going to just take the text and post that straight into LinkedIn with a little bit of minor editing. And I mean, you can
Turn
have
into a blog.
one piece. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can have one thing turn into so many pieces of content, right? So start big, start with a long form piece of content, and then just go down from there into little short form trickles that kind of all feed back to your long form content, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the strategy that I intend to take when I have enough time, right? But like with the
Yeah.
clients that I work with, when I'm getting paid to do this, I can spend a lot more time and effort on
Oh,
it
yeah.
versus like
Oh
if
yeah.
it's my own stuff, right? So a lot of my own stuff is just kind of like what I can fit in that little given
I feel
time
the
to
same
create
way.
content. But
I feel the same
but
way.
for
Yeah.
client stuff, I'm much more strategic, and that's the strategy that's been working the best for us is like you can grow a YouTube channel and grow a following of like loyal people who are subscribing because they love what you're talking about, right? And then take all of that stuff and just grow all of these other social media accounts that kind of all feed back to your long form content.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Gary V method, like he pretty much revolutionized that, like taking just conversations. And I think there's something to be said too about the way that content is captured as well. Because like at the end of the day, none of us really enjoy listening to someone read an obvious script on TikTok or IG or whatever. We want to hear people having conversations like we're doing right now. And I think that's the magic of a live stream, the magic of a podcast. And when we take those moments and we capture them, we're getting something that's uncut. It's off the cuff. It's honest. It's vulnerable. It's probably got a good story packed into it. It also just makes you feel like you're in the room with somebody, as opposed to like anytime if you saw like an actor on the big screen versus an actor on a podcast, like the notion of like pre-planned is just out the window. And so I think like by reverse engineering things and not creating content, but like Gary Vee would say, documenting your journey, you're
Mm.
bringing those moments of insight that would normally be lost, completely gone into the abyss of like, oh wow, that was cool. That was cool what they said earlier. Do you remember that? Instead, now it's like a captured thing that you can take into something like the script and just isolate that little bit and take it out, and life is just so much easier in that sense. So I think editing is getting easier, and we're realizing that we don't have to like sit down and dance on TikTok or sit down and drum up, like that moment on, that movie Limitless or whatever, and Bradley Cooper's sitting there typing and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
we got the stock market and he writes an entire book or whatever. Like I think we put way too much pressure on that shit, and that's just not going to happen. And we're going to burn ourselves out before you even had a chance to start, if that's our goal. And so it's like, yeah, just getting the regular everyday insights. If we can capture that, that's where it's at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think the easier you make it, right? So by implementing strategies that make it easy to make content, It makes it easier to stay consistent, right, and not get burnt out, right? If you're spending 3 hours every day to make content, you're gonna get burned out because you just don't have 3 hours every day. I mean, maybe somebody does, but I don't.
And even then,
So
it could not perform because you're doing organic. So yeah,
yeah,
like you could put a ton of time in and completely waste it as well. Like, yeah.
yeah.
So that's a factor, right? So
Yeah, I don't know. Social media, it's funny that like we can be in 2022 and still like be talking about social media. Like everybody doesn't already get it that like your brand needs to be making content on social media. It's like,
yeah,
oh, novel
or even
idea.
like yeah, or even just the notion of it, or just like the idea that you need to be a media company, like or like I heard this years ago, and I thought they were really ahead of the game. Like if you're gonna be a like Domino's was like we're a tech company that just happens to make pizza, like. And they said that years ago, and or they were like, we're basically a media company. We just happen to make pizza. It was something like that. I'm just like, if companies like that can figure that out 10 years ago, like I think smaller people that have way less money to spend and have way more to gain on social media and way more of a story to tell should be doing that exact same thing and looking at themselves as the content, and it's like everybody wants to talk about how amazing their brand is and they want to pitch their brand and they're not pitching themselves enough. They're not pitching who they are. And at the end of the day, that's how we build trust. We don't build trust with a set of details on the side of a cereal box or whatever. We build trust with stories and unique experiences and how that relates to people's values. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, we definitely connect on an emotional level, and I think that's something to keep in mind as you're creating content, right? You don't just want to be whatever generic about it. Like you want to think about that emotional response that you want to have. What does that connection look like? What does that brand connection look like when you interact with someone who's not right in front of you? What do you want that connection to look like, feel like? What impression do you want to leave with them after they devour your content? And kind of focus on that stuff, and that'll help you kind of figure out what to talk about and how to talk about it. So visualizing what that actual person to person interaction is like, and then trying to replicate that as much as you can in your content, right? So when you're writing content, rather than writing rah, 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 corporate stuffy, rah, 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 have fun with it. Talk like you're talking to a person. Picture one person in your mind and talk to that person in your post, and then people who are like that person are going to really resonate with that post versus something that's just generic.
Yeah, and just that mindset shift. Like you're sitting across the table from someone, just like we are right now. Whatever, it's virtual, but like you're sitting across the table from one person and you're talking to them. You're having a casual coffee, cup of joe, a drink, a craft beer, whatever. You're chilling, and you're just having a conversation with a friend. Like if you can treat your content like that, it's going to be approachable. It's going to be easy to read. It's going to be easy on the eyes. Whatever. Like you can have a lot more fun with it, and people are going to be able to approach that and have a conversation with you. If someone's standing on the corner preaching about something that's incredibly obscure or like demanding something of people, like they don't want to approach that. They want to have a conversation, right? So like I think that's huge. And yeah, people want to act like they're going to a TED Talk every time they write a piece of content. So yeah.
I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind.
Okay.
But then no, you're good. At the same time, I think it's really important to keep in mind that like at some point you do need to sell, right? You do need to try to educate people about your offer, educate people about what it is that you actually do, the benefit that you can provide to their business or the benefit that you provide to the consumer, right? You can't just always share educational content or share feel good stories or tell stories or whatever, right? At some point, like you do need to turn around and be like, hey, this is how I help brands. This is what I do. This is what design thinking can actually add to your brand. This is what happens when you look like this. And this is what happens when you look like this or whatever, right? So showing those examples of what your service actually adds to a business, and letting people know what it's like to work with you and then what that process looks like to actually buy from you is important. So, we talk about content so much, and I think it's easy, especially for someone like me that like was a mechanical engineer for years and years and years, like I don't have a sales bone in my body, right? But at some point, you can't just create content. You have to turn around and sell every now and then. So one of the strategies that I like to implement there is an 80-20 rule. So, you're sharing value, you're adding value, you're educating 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time, you can turn around and kind of not hard sell, but, kind of sell in your posts or show people what it's like to work with you, show people what that process is like, what it feels like, what it looks like, what it tastes like, smells like when they interact with you, and what that buying process looks like, and what that actual concrete value is when they actually start to work with you.
Sorry I had to run, and I kind of do have to run, but I do appreciate the time, man, and it's been fun.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it was a great chat. I'm glad we got to reconnect. We'll have to do it in another year and see where we're both at.
Yeah, 6 months or 3 months or whatever, and I'll try to have the house be a little bit quieter next time.
No, you're good, man. It was good to catch up.
Yeah, you take care, my friend. Nice to see you, Rex.
All righty. Yeah,
Everybody
we'll see you, Dan.
Take care. Bye.
All right, guys. Looks like Dan is out of here. I'm super glad that we were able to do the stream. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope we gave you guys some kind of educational tactics on how to create content. I think there's a lot of good nuggets in there for, starting long form, going more short form. Content is really important, and it really does help your brand gain awareness, gain traction. So for those of you that don't know, that are still here with us, this is the What the Heck is a Brand live stream. So the What the Heck is a Brand show is a live show where we bring guests on that are talking about branding, growing brands, how to level up your brand through content, through design, through creative, right? So that's what I do. I run a company called Stoked. We do branding and creative content. So whether that's designing a brand, figuring out what the brand's identity needs to look like to communicate best with the customers, and then creating content that helps connect with those customers. So that's what I do. This show is to kind of bring other experts that are kind of in that same area where we can just chit chat about creative, chit chat about social media, chat about content, and help you kind of get activated in creating your own content. So if you're still here at the end of the video, I would really love it if you can, support the channel, support the show, leave a comment. Let us know what you would like to see in the show. What type of content? Do you like these interview styles? Do you just want us to pick one topic and just go super deep on it? Or is kind of the chit chat flow fun for you? Let me know what you think. And I appreciate you being here. Again, this is the What the Heck is a Brand show, and we will be back next Friday at noon with the one and only Bobby Macy.